Hi everybody, today I'm going to be talking about the current situation. I have been sharing a lot about tilapia recently, and I have been publishing some really deep dive into tilapia. And it seems as if the word that I have been sharing have been reaching out to the relevant individuals in Jamaica as far as tilapia backyard fish farming is concerned. Now, welcome again to another episode of Fish Keeping Jamaica. You're my family, right? We need to talk. We need to talk a little bit more on this, because what is happening right now is our aquaculture industry is a massive real-time shift. If you are breeding like fish on this island, the struggles we have been facing, especially after the beating we took from Hurricane Melissa, right? I haven't even gone into much video regarding that, because that is just like it's like a disaster, right? Hurricane Melissa late last year, but now the government is making some serious move with regards to the policy changes coming from the top, as far as how tilapia fish farmers do operate as far as small backyard fish farming, right? Okay, so just recently, the portfolio minister, I think it's Floyd Green, stood up in the House of Parliament for the 2026 sectoral debate and dropped some major news, right, guys? They are pushing hard to complete state-of-the-art national tilapia hatchery over by Twickenham Park in St. Catherine, right? They have locked in roughly about, I think it's $200 million in budgetary allocation to get this thing past the finish line after weather delays. It has been going on for a while, right? We are talking about a fully biosecure recirculating aquaculture system, what you refer to as a RAS system, right? Powered by solar energy to keep utility costs down. Now, Minister Green whole policy shift right now is to move Jamaica away from traditional high-risk pond farming and push us into what we refer to as climate-smart technology. Once Twickenham Park is fully up, it's going to pump out roughly 5 million fry a year, pushing our national capacity to 30 million fry annually, right? So we're moving from 5 million to 13 million, which is over 100%, right, guys? Now, that means the National Fisheries Authority is actively trying to secure our own local, what I refer to as our own local supply, so we can stop relying on heavy import of stock, whether it be for seed stock or for brood stock, right? Now, at the exact same time, Minister, I think it's Franklin Witter, has been on the ground meeting directly with small backyard tilapia fish farmers, stakeholders, should I say. He held a massive national tilapia farmers consultation at the Caymanas Golf and Polo Resort in St. Catherine recently to look us in the eye and talk about the biggest bottleneck we face. And you all know that, right, guys? The biggest bottleneck we face is referred to as the whole feed situation, right? The cost of feed, which eats up roughly 60% of our what is referred to of our operational costs. Now, Franklin Witter announced that the NFA, National Fisheries, will be advancing feasibility study funded by the World Bank to establish a local feed mill, or should I say a feed factory, right, guys? Now, the policy goal here is to use local crops like cassava, corn, soy, coconut to reduce the cost, right, and to improve the quality of affordable tilapia fish feed, so we aren't at the mercy of the global import prices. Because currently, guys, the cost of tilapia feed importation is really out of the range of the backyard tilapia fish farmers. Now, Victor also shared plans for a 300-acre aquaculture, what I call it, agro park down in Amity Hall, St. Catherine, and a regional center for excellence over by Mitchelltown in Clarendon. Right, but here is where the conversation get really interested, and I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Right, people in the community are sharing mixed sentiments about these policy shift. People are like having mixed sentiments regarding the policy shift and the species being pushed. Now, while everybody is happy about the government pumping money into Nile tilapia and helping backyard tilapia fish farmer recover, like the 20 million post-hurricane package that distributed between distributed 75 metric ton of feed to over 100 registered farmer. A lot of traditional farmers are talking, right? Some guys are wondering if the focus is getting too commercialized, making it harder for small backyard tilapia farmers, you know, set up to be complete. Now, when you look at this, if they don't have the cash to upgrade to high-tech RAS system, what will be the possible implication? The new thrust to tilapia fish farming is concerned in Jamaica, right, guys? On the top of that, look at what else they are introducing. Minister Floyd Green just announced that they have partnered with UN's Food and Agriculture Organization to pilot cage mariculture. That's marine culture. That means you have cages with fish in it along the coastline, right, guys? Growing red snapper in cages out in the sea at Bowden's Harbor, St. Thomas. Now, the first of its kind in the English-speaking Caribbean, right? So while the government is trying to diversify and take pressure off the wild reef by introducing marine, diversity, marine fishing, local fish keepers and fish farmers are watching closely, right, guys? Now, some are excited about the new frontier as far as the blue economy, because we call fish farming blue economy, right? While others are skeptical about how smoothly these new technologies will transition to the average Jamaican farmer. And that is a thing in which I'm going to be looking at critically in a bit, right, guys? Now, the clear target from the Ministry of Agriculture in Jamaica, Ministry of Agriculture and Fishery, is to boost our fisheries contribution to GDP by roughly 50%, somewhere thereabout, by 2027. Now, the policymakers are setting the stage. The money is moving into St. Catherine, right, and Clarendon, and new species and systems are hitting the water. So what do you think about Floyd Green's and Franklin Witter's whole, thrust, right? Or everything that is being placed on the table? Are you ready to transition to climate smart system, or are you holding out to see how the local feed mill project plays out, right? Now let's talk about it down below in a little bit more, right? In a little bit more in the sense that you share your comments and all that, right, guys? Now, the Jamaican Agricultural Policy Shift, specifically examining the strategies championed by the Portfolio Minister Floyd Green and State Minister Franklin Witter, distinct structural dynamics. It's somewhat good, and to some extent you could say that there are some amount of criticism that can be laid at the policy shift. Now, the government's vision aims to aggressively modernize the blue economy to boost the fishery sector and the GDP contribution up to 50% by 2027. However, the path chosen, as far as I can actually see, it brings to the fore critical systemic flaws, should I say? Yeah, flaws, critical system flaws, right? And clear developmental strength. So you have both strength and weaknesses in the policy shift in which the government wish to actually have. Now, transition to climate smart technology. The RAS system at Twickenham Park. Now, the position, Minister Floyd Green pushing off 200 million budgetary allocation to finalize solar-powered recirculating agricultural system hatchery at Twickenham Park, right? After Hurricane Melissa setback. Now, the strength. This represents a massive shift away from climate vulnerability, right? Open pond aquaculture, and by centralizing fry production in a biosecure indoor environment, the state insulates the fundamental the foundational biological stock from extreme weather elements. In other words, when I look at the whole idea of you having a well laid out system in place, and things are producing and going on okay, and then now you have a weather phenomenon that sets us back. And one of the primary issue is electricity, power, right? Because having a lot of fish within a space, especially the babies, you need power so as oxygen in the space, and depending on the grid, grid goes, you find that everything goes and you start from scratch. So being climate resilient right, is one of the strength of the system, right? Now, by centralizing the fry production in the biosecure indoor environment, the states insulate the foundational biostock from extreme weather events, rising ambient temperature and evaporation loss and all that. It decreases, right? The utilization of solar energy directly mitigates the high electrical overheads that traditionally cripples commercial RAS system installation in the Caribbean. Now, as I talk about the RAS system, I've spoken about it already on my channel. I have a lot of criticism regarding that, and this is what the government is pushing. But let's not go into that right now. Let's wait a little bit, and I'll share with you a little bit more on that later. Right, this video is a little bit long. I'm sorry about that, but right, okay. So the positive evolution, right, of the whole system. Now, if successfully executed, right, this infrastructure create an independent national supply chain. Evaluating this whole situation, it would elevate the national capacity to roughly, I think, is 13 million fry annually, moving from 5 million, right? Now, it shifts Jamaica from reactive imports to proactive regional exporter of high quality, disease resistant genetic lines. Of course, you guys, you know that I'm talking about tilapia, right? Now, aggressive localization of input resources to World Bank feed study, right? The position is that the state minister, Mr. Witter, orchestration of a World Bank study, feasibility study to establish a national fish feed mill. Guys, I have been talking about this over and over and over again regarding the fish feed, and the government need to play a part in this, and it's finally coming to bear, right? But it seems as if we need a little bit more voice so as to get it done as quick as possible. Right now, this national feed mill, utilizing domestic agro-processing byproducts such as shared before, corn, cassava, soy, coconut residue, is a good idea. The strength of this idea, feed accounts for roughly 60% of Jamaican fish farmers' operational expenditure. Right, by systematically targeting the import dependency of raw feed ingredients, the policy directly addresses the core financial bottleneck of the industry. Now, this creates directly what I call it, a core. All right, so the immediate threat, the average backyard or small scale Jamaican pond farmer cannot afford to pivot to automated filtration system or marine cages, guys, by prioritizing capital intensive system. The policy risk consolidating the industry into the hands of a few heavily financed corporate operations, effectively squeezing out local artisanals or backyard fish farmers, operations, right? Producers, over centralizing of biological supply lines. That's also a flaw. Funneling massive national resources into single massive hubs like Twickenham Park for Fry or Amity Hall for proposed 300-acre agro park creates high risk single point of failure. Now, I have shared already that I think that the system that exists in Jamaica as far as tilapia fish farming is concerned, the whole aid in which the government actually grant to fish farmers, it should be decentralized. Now, the immediate threat, while Twickenham Park hatchery is structured and biosecure, the catastrophic grid failure, as I shared with you before, and a hyper localized disease outbreak or an unprecedented category 5 storm can halt national production as far as fry production entirely, right? Decentralization, as I shared with you before in another video, right, would be a better model, right? Decentralized small-scale farmers scattered across deep rural parishes face logistical, or should I say, transport bottleneck. Just trying to access high centralized supply in St. Catherine is a problem. And I share with you that over and over and over again, right? Now, reactive disaster subsidies versus proactive risk mitigation. Now, the flaw, the government's post-hurricane intervention, while necessary, remain fundamentally reactive, distributing 75 metric tons of emergency feed and 165,000 fingerlings after a disaster acts as a temporary patch rather than a sustainable economic field. Now, it is my belief, guys, that more centralization of this aid in which the government grant tilapia fish farmers in Jamaica and can be done. All right. Correction. Let's look at the corrections in parts, right? Democratize technology via versus low-tech optimization instead of expecting small-scale farmers to buy commercial-grade RAS system. Now, the National Fisheries Authority (NFA) extension team should pivot towards teaching hybrid low-tech optimization. Actionable fix, how this can be done. Train farmers to retrofit their existing earthen pond, the vats or the IBC totes or the buckets or whatever, set up with low-cost multi-chamber gravity and biological barrel filter. Now, this improves stocking density and water quality without requiring much financial input or high electrical consumption. Right? Now, correction B. Now, establish decentralized satellite nursery hubs to protect the country against single point of failure. The 13 million centralized fry capacity must be distributed, right? I am of the belief that if you have the government would like probably have some regional farmers across different parishes like Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Portland, as a decentralized satellite nurseries. Twickenham Park can ship early stage fry to these regional hubs where they are grown into advanced fingerling locally. This shortens the time of transport, lowers mortality rate and during transportation, and safeguard national stock against localized disaster. In other words, if let's say that the 30 million fries were in production at Twickenham Park and a hurricane or a tropical storm came and it actually hit in St. Catherine, right? You know that Twickenham Park would be devastated, and there will be no, what I call it, no recourse in getting everything up and running as quick as possible. The government will have to now import replacement parts or replacement fish stock, and it will take a while before production starts again. So therefore everything at that central location will be destroyed. All right, so let's go to correction C: institutionalized on-farm feed self-sufficiency. Right now, for me, I shared strategies in which you can apply so as to get your tilapia homemade DIY tilapia fish feed made, right? I shared that on my channel already. All right, now while we wait on the World Bank's feed study and the mill to be constructed and all that, right? It would be really good if small scale farmers would get some immediate relief. So if some, what I call it, extension officers would go around and would share with small scale fish farmers strategies in which they can use so as to substitute the highly expensive, what should I say, the high cost tilapia feed, that would be superb, right? Because the problem is now, not later, not 5 years down the line, the problem is now. So we need to correct that. Now, in ending, the NFA should actively run workshop instructing farmers as how to formulate, produce high quality supplementary feed, as I shared a while ago, right, guys? Now, teaching small and the primary focus of this, guys, is that teaching small scale producers how to safely supplement their feed regimens on site provides an immediate economic safety value, while the larger industrial milling infrastructure is being developed. So we are not waiting until everything has been finalized and the factory built up, and the factory might take 2-3 years to be constructed for everything to be placed together. Now, it's hope that this video won't, with this share, won't be like a full critique, because I have actually shared aspects of the presentation that is worth considering. But I think it should be said that there are some loopholes that needs to be filled. Thank you for stopping by, guys. Yeah, peace out. Catch you next time. Bye bye.